And we are live. And we're going to let folks join in here, but this is the Action Figure Grader. And this is a Patreon exclusive live stream. We don't do this enough. And for that, I apologize. I'm going to try and make it a more regular thing. But we do have some folks already in here. We got Danny Allen. What's up, Danny?
What's up, man?
Keith Guppy. I just got an email from him with his epic Echo Live pickup. What a ridiculous item that was. Your wife is way more patient than me. If I was going to pick up a graded at, good Lord.
Jealous.
You owe her. You better take her out somewhere nice for dinner, Keith. Martin Long. Brett on Fett. Well done. Glad you guys were able to join. Justin Mabin. All right. Well, we got some folks coming in here, so that's great. And as I already said, I want to say thanks for being Patreons for my channel. It means a lot that you guys help out with the channel costs and just help the channel grow. I'm never going to be the biggest channel in the world, but we try to cover a lot of different Star Wars topics. And, you know, as we're going through here, I'm expecting this to not be a very smooth transition between topics, and that's okay. I want you guys to ask questions, topics, whatever it is you want to talk about. And Chris W. from Rogue 5 Toys and from 5 Idiots Talking Toys podcast and on YouTube, one of my best friends was able to join me for this one. So, Chris, welcome, and thank you for joining.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. I'm excited to answer some of these questions that I don't have any answers to.
Well, none of us have all the answers, but we can at least pretend. Okay,
yes, exactly.
You know, this is going to go live afterwards. So for those of you watching the replay, I want to say thanks to those watching as well. And I've got a couple of shout outs I need to give right now. First of all, several of you recently increased your Patreon support for the channel. Gary Brooks, Gary Wallace, Eric Benner. You guys are all good buddies, and I really appreciate you guys recently increasing your Patreon membership. And also, I got some new Patreons, Dylan Johnson and Simpson Z. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. They just became Patreon members, so I really appreciate everyone who is kind enough to support the channel. So, Chris, before we dig, I wanted to talk, of course, about the big Morphe's auction results. You know, I covered it in a video here recently. I want to talk about that in a little while. And I'd love to hear what other folks who are watching and participating in this live stream, if you guys attended or bid on anything or had some general thoughts, feel free to share in the comments. But before we do that, I wanted to see if you've had any recent pickups. You spend a lot of money, way more money than I do. And that's why my wife is probably happier with me than your wife is with you.
I also sell a lot more pieces than what you do.
You do. So have you picked up anything here lately?
I have. You know, I have to put my white gloves on first because...
Oh, God. Here we go.
I don't like to touch my acrylic and get fingerprints and get them all dirty. So, I know some people like this and some people hate it, but...
You know I'm bad. All right, so what have you picked up here lately?
Just going to show a couple of my glass leak pieces. This is a Darth Vader, AFA 85. This is glass leak. And for all of you guys that don't know, this is made in Brazil. So it was released in Brazil.
Wow. What an awesome item. I've got my son here, Ninja Star Gaming and Shorts. My son is watching live. Make sure to go check out his channel. He is an epic Roblox player. Let me tell you, I watch him play mini games, but I mean, you know, the deathmatch games, Chris, like the total, you know, he'll have the total tags at the end of the game. He'll have like 260 kills, and the next closest person has like 10. So he's a gaming genius, and so he is watching live right now. He's not a Patreon supporter, but I gave him special privileges to watch this. So for those of you watching or on the replay, check out Ninja Star Gaming and Shorts for your coverage of Roblox highlights. All right, let's dig back into your incredible Brazilian glass leads.
So that's the glass leak Vader. You can tell.
Hey, the Vader. Hey, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead. You're going to say it. You're going to go ahead and say it, so I'll shut up.
I was going to say that the saber is different, and then you could tell with his buckle right there. It's like a much bigger circle on the buckle.
Can you zoom in on that? Maybe hold it closer to the camera so folks can see that. Oh yeah, so it's a big
There you go.
big buckle. So it's like is it black?
Yeah, it's black.
Wow, and I know that saber was a thick tip saber, so that's
Correct.
very specific.
Everyone knows finding these always, in general, is hard, but then finding them in good condition is even harder. So.
And do the glass lead? Do they have foot pegs or no?
That's a good question. Yes, they do.
Okay, I was thinking of the Top Toys Argentinian figures that don't have the foot peg.
Those I know don't, but these do. So then the
Rob
other
Rob Chewbacca Toys has joined us.
Is the C-3PO.
Wow, that is an incredible figure there. That's the glass lead too, huh?
Yeah, so you could tell that the chrome is like a much darker, like, copperish color.
Wow.
And that was an AFA 80 plus. And just two nice figures to add to the collection. I like to collect all variants of loose graded and all different COOs, and
that's a very tough one to find.
Yes. So hopefully I can finish the whole line. I have the Luke Farm Boy and the Chewbacca, so I have 4 of them.
And we unfortunately have our Patreon exclusive live stream for the same time that John Miko has his vintage collection kind of Hasbro reveals wrap up going. So, those guys are going to get the views. And for those of you that have put that one on hold to join us here today, you guys get some special thumbs up from me. So thank you.
They can always watch it afterwards.
So to repeat, you said on the glass leads you have the Chewbacca, the Vader, the 3PO,
and the Luke Farm Boy.
The Luke Farm Boy, which is incredible.
I definitely want to get a Han Solo and a Princess Leia next. That's what I'm looking for.
Hitchville, Matthew K. We got Darth Wizzy, Jules Burt. Jules, he's like really famous. He's slumming it with us who are like kind of fake famous. So thank you for Jules for joining.
Definitely the most soothing voice in YouTube.
Oh, absolutely. He's got some great ASMR videos, like book cleaning videos. I watched those.
Me too.
My son says, Chris, you have beautiful figures.
Thank you.
You also have a beautiful figure. You're very spelt.
Oh, I appreciate that. I'm a subscriber to your channel, so thank you. I watch your shorts.
And so as we're going through here, I'd love to get questions from you guys. So feel free to fire away with some comments and questions. But Chris, now that we've seen your epic pickups, I'd like to get your thoughts on the Morphe's auction, the big find, quote unquote. And you were there at the auctions. I'd like to hear about your experience, how it was run, just in general, your takeaways from after being at the Morphe's find auction.
Yes. So I was there. I went up on Tuesday night. I stayed till Thursday. The auction was actually 3 days. It was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but Star Wars was the first day only, so it was Wednesday. They went through 400 lots. They pretty much did like a minute in between. They would just start the bid, and then they would just go on to the next. So they were done by about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, starting at 9. And I think Morphe auction itself is very nice. It was run very smoothly. People there were very nice, very helpful. If you showed up early on Wednesday, even if you showed up early on Tuesday, they were able to show you anything in the case. They would walk you through it. They wouldn't take it out of the acrylic, which is fine, but they would take it out, hold it for you, and you were able to look at it and take pictures and stuff to see the condition up close. The prices itself were absolutely ridiculous. I think everything went double and triple, at least what I was expecting, because I did go there with some money, hoping to buy some stuff, and the prices were definitely high. Now, obviously, the auction house has nothing to do with that themselves. That's the bidders. So there was definitely some overseas bidders in there with a lot of money. But
what do you? When I look at the photos on, here's my takeaway. Yes, the prices were insane, but I feel like, again, no knock against Morphe's because they're just doing their job to try and maximize prices. But it did seem like if you looked at the photos really close or zoomed in on them, that you would see that these were not all quote unquote case fresh. There were some that had some damage.
Yes,
and I just wonder with a lot of those prices, especially for the early card backs, whether there might be some disappointed buyers once they actually get those in hand, especially the international buyers.
So I think leading up to this, I think I expected every single card to be like absolutely mint graded 85 and over. When I got there, I would say more than half definitely were more 75-ish grade, maybe 80. A lot of them had frosting on the figures. I would say a lot of them. Like when you got there and you saw it up close, there was a lot of frosting. Definitely some veining and stuff that you didn't see. I think they definitely tried their best to show it. I don't know if they normally have a find or have as many figures as they did this time. So they certainly tried their best to explain everything. It was definitely best to be there in person to see the stuff, which is why I was there. But
Do you think that the price inflation, the prices that were so far above market, is it because do you think people just wanted a piece of this, whatever you want to call it, history, part of the find, they just wanted to be part of it, and or do you think it's because of the condition that people maybe over their expectations of condition, even they even look past some of the issues maybe that they saw in the photos, or maybe they didn't zoom in on the photos. So I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around why the prices ended up where they did, and I'd be curious as to know what you thought.
I think the only answer could possibly be is that people were willing to overspend, because a collection like this, how many times has a collection this big with so many rare pieces, so many, like, let's say Boba Fett debut cards, or really his debut is 21A, but 21B cards show up at one time, and the Luke DTs. So I think people were just willing to overspend to kind of get a piece of history, to be a part of history. It's funny because some of the 12 backs, like the Chewbacca's and the Leia's and the Stormtroopers, they were 12C, they were ungraded. They were selling for $4,000, which is an absurd number. And other people were listing their items on this auction also, so they were kind of piggybacking off of this find. So there were some graded items towards the very end of 12 backs of a Stormtrooper, and I think it was a Chewbacca, and they were 12B backs, and they actually sold for half the price of what the ungraded ones sold for.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
So
well, let's dig into some comments here before we get too far down here. But Zoom Club, boom or bust cycles always look predictable with hindsight. Maybe the occurrence of the pandemic couldn't be foreseen, but the effect of Disney's Disney series was more predictable. Are there any possible future events that you think will boost the general value of vintage Kenner stuff? Or one final thing, or is it more likely that it's now a long, gradual cooling off as the nostalgic generation die off? What are your thoughts there on that?
So for me, I think you hit it on the head about a day ago in one of your videos. You said that Star Wars collecting and pricing is really at its infancy, and I happen to agree with that. Compared to like most of the hobbies with collecting, Star Wars is still one of the cheapest out there. So I don't see any cooling off. I think it's just going to continue to go up personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think I tend to side a little bit with Zone Club there, that we might see a pretty significant drop off in valuations as our generation ages out of buying anymore. And maybe we see an oversupply of kind of high grade stuff like this, 20 years, whatever, 20, 30 years down the line. I don't know, but maybe I'm wrong. But it just seems like the newer generation, my kids' generation, they're not, at least right now, they're not interested in, in a lot of these vintage items just because they never grew up with them. But it'll be curious. It's something we've talked about in the past. Keith Guppy, he says, Chris, do you just collect graded items? Also, do you collect graded loose vehicles and ships?
I do. I collect just loose vehicles. And then if you can see up there, I have a bunch of loose graded vehicles. And all on the side over there, I have a lot more stuff. So, yeah, I'm mainly into loose grading and loose graded vehicles and baggies.
Yeah, Keith just picked up an incredible loose graded at Walker, so you need to get one like that. So Lisa will be really happy.
If I had the room that Keith did at his house, I would be buying so much more, but I don't.
It's a constant bane of collectors. All right, this is another good one, tying back to the Morphe's auction, is that, there were a lot of figures grouped in lots. And, I did hear from a number of you guys that the lots were not generated by Morphe's. They were generated by the owner. He wanted the submitter wanted to sell those. And yes, it seems unfair to collectors because if you want a 2-1B mint on card, well, you got to buy 5 of them for like whatever they ended up selling for $4,000 or $5,000. And I would just be curious as to maybe why he did that. Why the seller did that, and maybe he bought them all at the same time and just wanted to keep them together. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so as you said, Morphe had nothing to do with that, actually, at all. They actually were telling the guy that you should split them up and sell them individually, probably get them graded, but the owner was very strict on his rules. He wanted certain ones to stay together for whatever reason. Like the Yodas, he picked up like different 4-packs and 3-packs. Some of the packs didn't really make much sense, but to him, that's the way he wanted it done. And they were just really abiding by his wishes.
Yeah, and I expected those lots to actually sell at a discount, versus them being sold individually. But if you look, if you kind of back into the numbers, they really didn't. I mean, it was pretty.
No, so those are the ones that I was actually going for. Those are the ones that I thought that would go for a value, and they still didn't.
Yeah, it's crazy. We've got a question from Jules here. Do we have a total for the entire collection sold for? Not too surprised at the premium prices as this named collection will go down in collecting history. I think it probably will. I mean, 20 years from now, we're probably all going to remember the Morphe's quote unquote find.
Yes.
And, I did copy and paste from the final bid page on Morphe's what I thought was all of just the action figures. Some of them were part of the find, some of them were not. But my rough number was about $750,000 before the premium, the 20% premium. So it's about $950 altogether based on my numbers. I don't know if you had any different numbers there.
No, I was going to actually say it's probably a little under $1 million, like 800,000. So your number probably sounds a lot better than mine. But yeah, then you add in that premium, and then it really shoots it up more.
Yeah, and again, I mean, some of those were not part of the find. It was all the loose figures. I basically just copied them all into very rough calculations. But with the premium, it was about 900,000. And we've got one person did say that he likes the vintage figures. So this Ninja Star Gaming in Shorts disagrees with my assessment that his generation is not going to be collecting these. That's good because he's going to have to deal with my collection after I'm worm food one day.
Yeah. If it's not me, it's going to be you.
Yeah. I mean, I would think that you're going to be, because I would imagine, Chris, you're younger, you're more spry, you eat healthier than I do. You're probably going to outlive me, so you're going to be in charge of
eating healthy.
Yeah, as you drink your Monster Energy drink. I mean, that stuff is like battery acid. I can't believe you put that in your body.
I love it.
So Keith he was misinformed about the auction, but it was a loft find or something. You correct me if I'm wrong here, Chris, but wasn't that find basically just one guy's collection in a closet that he just maybe didn't realize the values on? I don't know.
From what we were told, it was an older gentleman who bought Star Wars figures for his kids while they were growing up. I think his kids did not like Star Wars, so they never wanted them. They never opened them. He continued to keep buying them for whatever reason. So I'm assuming secretly they were for himself. And he would just store them away. And he had all the original mailer boxes, too. So one of the things that people don't talk about are the mailer boxes. He had all the original ones.
Wow.
So a lot of the cards, even if they were punched, the punch tabs were still laying in the box. So they must have fell off over the years. And I guess after all this time, he decided to sell them off and get rid of them.
Well, it certainly was cool to see all those sell at once. I mean,
Yeah.
Did you have one of the ones I had a question for you on? Maybe you know the answer, maybe you don't. But a number of the double telescoping mint on card Luke Farm Boys sold for big money, $32,000 after the premium. One of them was a yellowed blister that sold for $42,000. Was it because it was a Taiwan or something? Or
that is an answer that nobody understood. Every single person during that live auction, while the bids were coming in, we were all dumbfounded. After it was over, we actually walked outside. I went over to the case. I looked at it again. Many people were out there looking at it. Nobody understood because it was the worst condition one. It had a yellow blister. But there has to be something with like you said, like a serial number or something on there that's different as opposed to the rest because people wanted that one.
Yeah, it was really bizarre to me, but it has to be something either related to the COO or the type of Luke that was packed in there that made it a one of one. But I was just curious if you knew.
No, I think it sold for 34 or 35,000, and then you add in the buyer's premium of $9,000. You're looking at 43, 44.
Yeah, I think it was somewhere around there, 42, 43.
So
pretty wild. Was it the last one? That's another question. Was it the last one that was sold?
I think it was the fourth one out of the fifth, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, I don't know if somebody just went on tilt because they had lost out on the other ones, or
And that's what we were all thinking because it didn't make sense to anybody because there was a yellow blister and the other ones were clear and nicer and they sold for less.
Yeah, that's bizarre. I'm guessing it's probably something to do with the COO. So, keep firing away with your questions, guys. Jules Burt says, the multiple Yodas reminded me of when I had a case of Gamorrean guards back in the day, about 1994, that had the original box as well. I remember him telling me that story when I did a live stream with Jules. He just had just a case of these things, case fresh, in the mid-1990s when the market was, obviously pretty slow.
I think out of actually all of them, I think the Yodas were the best price or the reasonably priced. When you add up 24 of them with the shipper's box, it's less than $1,000 a piece.
Yeah, it was like 900 or something, but just the shipper box alone has got to be worth a pretty significant amount of money to have a Yoda.
They were all selling $500 to $1,000 just the boxes alone.
I did find it interesting that some of them were punched, some of them were unpunched, some of them had price stickers, some of them didn't. So it was just a very strange collection, and I'm sure that other people will be saying the same thing about my collection 30 years from now. So, the premium for the auction was 20%, and then if you used a credit card, it was 3%.
Yeah. So, leading up to the auction, you were allowed to use a credit card. It was 23%, and check was 20%. The day before, they changed it, and they said no credit cards at all. Everyone,
really?
So everyone was going to be stuck using a check or wire transfer. So the morning of when we all got there, we all didn't hear the news about it. Everybody was complaining. The guys from CAS, me, my brother, a bunch of us. So they did credit cards, but it was only for the people in-house who are allowed to use credit cards. So if you were on the phone or anything else, from what I was told, you're not allowed to use credit card.
Interesting. I wonder why that was. It's just a cost, I guess. But I guess.
Yeah.
Hitchfield says, my hair is on point today. Yes, it is. I cut it a couple of days ago, and it's very, I'm going for that Ripley look from, is that her name? Ripley? When Sigourney Weaver was kind of, fine-tuning her look. So the questions are really coming in hot and heavy, and by that I mean there's none at all. So what do you think 6 months from now for the next Hakes auction, when we start to see some more rarities like what we saw in Morphe's? How do you think the prices will compare to this Morphe's find? Let's say we get another 21 back Boba Fett that's in high grade condition at Hakes in the next big June auction. How do you think the prices will compare? Because they were like what, $18,000 to $20,000+ ungraded.
Yeah,
and literally right after that the Morphe's auction ended. A pretty well-known collector listed a couple of high-grade 21 bag Boba Fett's for less, and I just thought it was hilarious. Just
graded too.
They were high-grade, like 80 pluses, and he's like, "Hey, this just sold at Morphe's for like 30% more than I'm asking, and mine's graded." It's just crazy.
And they didn't sell, right?
I don't think so. Yeah, he was like, "Pick one. I'm going to keep one," and they didn't sell.
I think the prices will go back to the normal prices that we've been seeing across the board. I think that was just like a one-time thing. People really wanted to, like you said, 20 years down the road, Morphe, like this Morphe find is going to be known as the Morphe find. It's one of the biggest finds with the rarest pieces. So I think people just wanted to be a part of it.
We got another question here. It says, if you could only display one vintage figure of the 96 forevermore, Which one is it? Which is the nicest looking figure, including variants? So what's your pick there? Mine's easy.
Well, I'm going to go with my focus figure, which is the one that no one cares about, and that's Prune Face.
Prune Face. So really,
Yes.
that's the one you're going to go with?
Yes.
Really?
Prune Face. Yep.
Okay. Well, I find that to be a really interesting answer, but now for me, it's going to be Vader, Darth Vader, all the way.
Okay.
The tie that binds all of Star Wars is Darth Vader, and to me, that's a no question for me. All right, we're starting to get some more questions finally here. Keith Guppy says, "Where do you see your collection going in the next 12 months? Just upscaling the grades, which you do. I want you to talk about that, or branching into other areas. Tempting to go modern, like John. I know the answer to that one as well, but I'm going to let you talk about this. So go ahead."
So, am I tempted to go modern like John? My answer is absolutely not. I was tempted a few years ago, and I was buying some modern pieces, and I just got completely overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that I had. So I sold, I would say, 95% of my modern stuff off. I didn't have a lot anyway, so I definitely can't do that. As far as my vintage, to be honest with you, I don't know. So right now, this is my computer room, and I have these two big cases here, and that pretty much holds everything that I have. But we are planning to have another baby. So this is going to be the new baby's room if we have one. Therefore, all this stuff needs to leave. And I don't have anywhere to put it. So
what about like you got a basement? Can't you kind of move them out to like the wet bar area and all that?
I have a huge basement, but I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old that throw stuff everywhere. So if I'm not home, do you really think my wife cares if they open up a case and start throwing around a Darth Vader?
Well, that would be bad. Yeah, and you've got some pretty epic stuff like your rocket, removable rocket Lily Letty Boba Fett. I mean, just some items that exactly. I would never even consider owning in my collection.
As kids get older, they're going to have friends over too, and I can't leave my stuff downstairs with a bunch of kids playing around.
Yeah, that's tough.
So
you got to train them though. I mean, my kids are pretty good. I mean, if they have friends over, they welcome them into my collection room, and they're always really good. It's like, you're allowed to look, but don't touch. And they're really good about that. So, Zum Club says if you could only display one figure, it would be a PvP Boba Fett. That's not a bad choice.
No, not at all. Well, what about you, John? Where do you see your collection going?
That is a good question. I would say that I had some recent sales on Rogue 5 Toys of some items with your help, of course, and so I kind of reinvested that at Hakes at the last Hakes auction. Got some really great deals at Hakes. I got a Made in Mexico Biker Scout on the 65 back B, clear blister, obviously with the MIM, but that graded 80 with CAS. And I mean, literally one just sold at Morphe's for almost 3 times what I paid for mine. So I thought that was, obviously it's not part of the big find, but I think to get a nice high grade MIM was a big win. But I think, it's a constant struggle at my house with space. So I would imagine it's going to be a lot of loose graded from here for me. So, I need to get some Leias, some Princess Leias. I picked up a couple of Polish bootleg Leias recently, but I need to get some nice high grade Leias.
Like a Hong Kong or a Taiwan one?
Yeah, I've got a couple of Hong Kongs, but I don't have the No COO or the Taiwan. Those are two I'd like to really pick up. I wouldn't mind getting a PvP Fett, as has already been mentioned, but I just don't know what's going to happen here. Okay, let's see what we got here. Hitchfield says, in all seriousness, with CAS pumping out the 30-day turnaround on mocks till the end of the month, which is amazing, by the way, are you guys foreseeing a slight increase in potential overgrading? That's a good question. I would say that my items that have all been graded so far as part of this 30-day turnaround, they've either been at or below my estimates for every single one of them. So nothing has been overgraded so far, and some of them came in below where I expected. But all the vintage Kenner stuff and things like that, Tri Logos, they all came in literally to the subgrade of what my estimates were for them. Every single one of them so far, and there's been 4 out of the 6 that I've gotten grades for. 4 of the 6 mint on cards. Every single sub score, not just the overall score, but every single sub score came back exactly as I expected. So me personally, I think the answer to Hitchfield's question is no, but I'd be curious as to what you think there.
I haven't really seen any of the grades come back on those 30-day mocks yet, to be honest with you. But I just do know in general, CAS has gotten tougher on grading, which, for me is a good thing. So a lot of their grades that they have been giving out lately, I would actually agree with. So I'm hoping that they don't potentially overgrade these mocks that they're pumping out.
I just don't see it. I think if anything, they've. I mean, my opinion for tri logos, like Palatoy tri logos, especially, has always been that of the three grading companies, Collector Archive Services grades those the harshest, easily. Easily. And you told me that. You're the one that originally told me that. I was like, whatever. And then I started sending some in, and I 100% agree with you, because I see some AFA or UKG graded, similar to maybe what I have in my collection. And I'm like, wow, that one got an 80 or that one got an 85 with AFA. That would never get an 80 or an 85 with CAS. So
a lot of times with AFA, when they grade the tri logos, you'll see like a bubble ding on the top, and they'll still give it an 80 very easily. And CAS is like, nope, sorry, we're not doing it. It's 75. And you know what?
It's really tough.
I agree with it. Like when you have like a kind of like a thumbprint and it's pushing down, it shouldn't get an 80. It just shouldn't.
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm okay. If the rest of the card and the figure and everything look good, and it's got maybe one or two slight dings, you might still get an 80 with CAS. But I just submitted.
Yes, overall.
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 Yeah, no, yeah, and I submitted a tri-logo AT-AT commander that I got at Hakes, and I went into it like, oh, there's no way this is beyond a 75 or 75 plus. Because it was more card damage, and it was just sometimes you can just feel it. When you hold one in your hand, you can sometimes it's on the borderline. That one's like, oh no, there's no way. Like I just submitted a mint on card or mint and seal box Imperial Cruiser diecast, and as soon as I held it, I was like, oh, is this going to be a 70 or 75? I'm not sure. So we're going to see on that one, but I'm going to guess a 70 plus, but I hope it gets a 75. We'll see. Tony, all right. He says, Tony, thank you again for being a Patreon. All of you, I really appreciate you guys. Hey guys, loving the show. Question: what would be the lowest graded loose or carded fig that you would ever consider investment grade and mint? Also, I have my eye on a Nocio Oscar loose. Thoughts? I'm not sure which one he's meaning, but anyway, I can answer this. I can say, if you got an AFA 10 Toxic Limbs Bosk, you're still doing okay. That's a really good item to have in your collection. What do you have any others that you can think of top of your head? I mean, besides prototypes or first shots, things like that. I
was going to say with like the double telescoping Bens, Invaders, and even even like a Letty Fed or a removable Rocket Fed or an orange-haired Luke. Some of those pieces we just want to own and have in our collection. So if it's a 40 grade, a 50 grade, a 60 grade, who cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that double telescoping Vaders or Obi-Wans, I think that's a really good example because, I mean, high grade, $20,000-$30,000 for, especially for the Ben. So I mean, to me, having an AFA or CAS 10 of a double telescoping Kenobi would be just fine with me.
Yeah.
Zone Club says, I sent it a BCP03, which is I believe the rocket firing mail away FET, to UKG for grading alongside its mailer. First thing I ever sent for grading back in October. When I get it back, and do they email you your grades first? I don't think UKG emails you your grades first. And I will have to let Keith Guppy speak to the turnaround times at UKG. I was thinking they're running about 6 months right now. That's what I heard, but maybe Keith can share on that one.
When it comes to putting stuff in, I don't really know much about UKG either.
Yeah, me either. I think they're running about 6 months though. They're running pretty long. Wizzy keeps trying to get me to make an addition to my house. No, that's never going to happen. I don't have the room as it is, and I'm okay with that. And let's see. Keith Guppy says, I'm a little worried CAS will get overloaded on the 30-day offers. Any concerns on that? What are your thoughts there, Chris? I'll let you answer that first.
I actually completely agree. I actually was worried that CAS would get overloaded with it, but I hung out with the guys from CAS at Morphe auction, and they told us straight up, no, we're doing fine. They have more help there, and they're on top of it. I guess they have their system down, and everyone will get it back within the 30 days.
I guess my other thing is, like, how does that, not that it doesn't bother me at all, first of all, I'll say this, but I would imagine that if you're a casual submitter of items, and you sent something like, whatever, I think the 30-day turnaround thing offer, it started mid-January, January 13th, something like that. How would you feel if you were the first time submitting something to CAS and you submitted something on January 5th and, you're not going to get it back within this 30-day time frame? I just think that, for me anyway, it would have been maybe smart to at least, as part of that announcement, to maybe give people insights as to when they could expect their items that were submitted. So, for example, I've got some mints on cards that one of them is a larger size, so it doesn't count as part of this 30-day. But I've got some standard ones that were sent in early December that have not been touched yet. The items that I sent January 31, they were graded in 2 days. So, I mean, again, I don't care personally, just because I submit stuff pretty regularly to them, but I think it might just turn off. What I'm trying to say is it might turn off the casual customer for CAS.
So I had someone off of the page, Rogue 5, he asked me if I can send some items in for him to get graded, because he didn't know how to do it. So I told him, just mail them to me and I'll take care of them for you. It was 4 days later they released the 30-day back thing. So then he actually wrote me back and he was like, so am I going to get these back in 30 days? And I'm like, no, we were 4 days too early. That was the cutoff. So
and that's okay. I mean, it's just part of the deal. I mean, that's part of the risk you take, right? Because CAS does like Thanksgiving, discounts, right? And I do it every year. I feel like I submit something right before Black Friday deals, and I'm like, oh, duh, I forgot. There's a 20% off sale going, and I always do it right beforehand. So it's just part of the deal. But I just thought it would, again, for high volume customers like you and I, maybe it doesn't matter that much. But I was curious. Tony was the no COO that he was talking about was a Scar Vader, and that's a pretty common PvP figure. So that would be like a Spanish PvP. There are a couple of different variants for the Spanish PvP Vader. There's a textured cape. There's a non-textured glossy cape. There is a blob I think I'm going on memory, but there's like a blob COO where the back of the leg almost looks like a big blob. It's not a scar; it's more of a blob. That one's actually pretty hard to find. But the no COO Scar Vaders are pretty common. They're pretty rarely available.
I think you could find them if they were graded like an 80. Let's just say, would you say $200-300?
Oh yeah, not even that. I mean, you can get an UKG 85 right now on eBay for like $220. So,
okay.
It's brand new. It's nice. Even though I've got two of them, I'm watching it. I was like, no, I really want that. I don't know why I want another one, but it's on my watch list.
You got to send me that link.
Yeah, it's a pretty good deal. It's got the new case and everything. I thought it was a pretty good buy. So I don't know why I announced that, because it's going to be gone by the time this video goes live. But no, I think it's actually a pretty good buy. Yeah. Okay, let's see what Wizzy says. Have either of you guys ever seen the company in Montreal called CAD that does grading? Ever heard of them? I've seen them. There's like a few other smaller, not to be named, grading companies. There's one in the UK. There's one that's here in the US. And I mean, there's a lot of guys doing it. I'm just saying that, for me, if I'm going to be spending money on getting stuff graded, it's probably got to be one of the big three personally. What are your thoughts?
Completely agree. I've heard of CAD. I've seen a lot of their custom work. They do a lot of like good pieces, but as far as grading and stuff, I don't really know if I would get anything graded. But I would, if it was something that was just cased by them, I wouldn't mind it. Yeah,
no, yeah. I mean, I've certainly seen some items that are not graded by one of the big three if the price is right. Yeah. This is a good question from Frank that you and I talk about offline all the time. Why is a TBC proof card so much more expensive to grade than the same carded figure at CAS? Thank you, Frank. I'm 100% in agreement on this. It's ridiculous.
It makes no sense. It's less than a mock, so it should technically be easier to grade than a mock, but it's double the price than a mock.
Yeah, I mean, so Frank, to answer your question specifically, they treat this as a prototype item. So anything prototype related, you got to pay a, whatever it is, $50 to $75 premium. So if a prototype loose figure, it's like 150 versus 60. They consider these proof cards, even though a lot of them were given away at STCC or Celebration. They were just giveaways. They do come with a more robust statement of authentication, where it kind of talks about being a proof card. So, but I do think it's a little bit of a, I don't know. I don't want to use scam, but I think they overcharge for that stuff. Keith Guppy did have an answer, by the way, on UKG. It's 6 months, less weekends, so 7 months or so turnaround. And that's what CAS was running and probably still is running right now for loose graded, correct?
I don't know. CAS, I'm getting items back after 4 months right now with CAS.
Wow.
So.
Man, I hope that holds up, because I just sent in some beautiful bootlegs. I hope that comes back sooner.
Yeah, I got some orders from September and October that are being worked on now and got them back.
Yeah, that's amazing. I hope that holds up, because I would love to get my bootlegs. I got some Polish. I got a Polish Farm Boy and a Polish Leia that I just sent in last week. I really want those back in less than 6 months. It would be nice. Here we go. Do the submissions to CAS for the 30-day turnaround deal have to be checked in by the 28th or postmarked? And I'm guessing it's the latter. I think it's postmarked.
Yeah, I would think postmarked. Most of the time, most of these places always do postmarked. So.
Yeah, I mean, if you submit and pay for your submissions before the 28th, I don't even think it needs to be postmarked. I just think you have your form has to be filled out and paid for. Yeah. Yeah, so you can do that. Let's see here. What do we got? Yeah, and one other thing I wanted to point out is this from Keith, is that if you do submit under that 30-day thing for CAS, make sure it's only the standard 6x9 cards in the order. Keith included a couple of Clone Wars figures on that, and I didn't know that till after he's already sent it. I was like, that's going to delay the whole order, I think, because that won't count underneath. But the good thing is, I mean, I think in general they're running probably 3 months or less for mint on cards, just generally speaking. Has been my experience.
They're moving a lot quicker over there, so it's not. I don't think it's going to be 8 months. That's for sure.
Rob Chewbacca says, I had a submission for CAS and my Yoda. I think is it VC 218? I don't know which one that is. It got a 95. Wow. Maybe that's the Empire Strikes Back version of Yoda. That's not the VC 20. Canadian. That would be nice. Let's see. Would you say that even with the economic downturn, high grade items will always be sought after? And what's your most prized item? Chris, I'll let you answer that first.
Of course you would. Would you say
economic downturn, will high grade items hold up? I mean, that's, to me, yes. I mean,
yeah, I definitely do. I always said that the higher graded items and the more rarer items will always hold its value and, continue to be wanted from people.
Let's take a side diversion on this topic, by the way. So last summer, probably in June or so, I came out with a video and said, have Star Wars collectibles prices peaked? And I was pounding the table that prices have peaked and that we're in a recession and that, it's going to be downhill from here. And for about 3 months, I looked like a genius because the Hakes auction came out about a month after that or 2 months after that. All of the prices were way down. Even the rocket firing Fett was way down. And here we are, in January, February, and we had the Morphe results. And I'm looking like an idiot at this point right now. To me, I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts there? Because it does seem like we had a drop, but it's almost been like shoveling coal in a locomotive, and it's just taken off again.
Yeah, we definitely saw a drop for a few months. I think it was just more because people just were not buying because they were probably waiting to see
vacations.
What was
it was about summer. It was like late summer.
So it makes sense for people not to be spending money and stuff. So I got that. But, now do items sell as fast as they were a few years ago? No, they're not selling as fast. But as far as prices, the prices are still good. The prices are still up there. If I list something and it doesn't sell in an hour, it might sell in 6 hours. So at the end of the day, it still sells.
And what do you think? One thing that you and I predicted going into this fall and winter months is like, we're going to see so much stuff for sale on eBay. So many people are going to be selling off their collections because they're going to be struggling to pay bills. And credit card, if you look at credit card debt right now, credit card debt has skyrocketed. People clearly are struggling to make ends meet. Why have we not seen an increase in inventory on eBay? Because I feel like, if anything, it's the opposite.
I think it's the opposite too. So the inventory I thought was going to skyrocket, and it just hasn't. It's actually dried up. I used to get people hitting me up all the time to buy collections. Just in general, people just getting out or moving on, or I don't get anything. It's like everyone's holding on to their stuff right now.
It's shocking. It's shocking to me. I just, maybe
Is.
it's because the economy has held up better than what my expectations were. The labor market's obviously really strong right now. Inflation's starting to cool off. Stock market's, kind of bouncing back a little bit.
Yeah.
But, I predicted a recession, and it's really hasn't happened yet. I mean, I've literally been proven wrong on every single thing. And I think it's nothing new to my family. My family knows I'm wrong on just about everything, but I'm just really shocked by this. I'm just shocked that we have not seen a massive kind of deluge of people just fire selling stuff. And you see it occasionally, you see the occasional high grade mock, 12 back A Vader that just sold here recently on eBay with $1 starting price. I mean, you see that occasionally, but I was expecting to see those by the dozens. You know what I mean?
It's not happening. You see one or two go for really low prices, and you're like, oh my God, that went for really low. And then the next day, the same item sells, and it's for triple the price. So
it's just all over the map. All right, so let's do the second part of his question here, where he says, what's your most prized item in your collection?
I would say for me, it's my removable rocket Lily Letty Boba Fett.
I think that's a good choice. I mean, that's a pretty incredible item and kind of a holy grail, really, for most collectors. Very tough to find that one. I mean, it's like your poor man's prototype rocket firing Fett, really. You know?
I can take it out if you want. You can
talk
about
please
yours.
do. Yeah, please do. If you're going to use the gloves, though, then I've talked about my favorite item. My favorite item in my collection is probably like a $15 or $20 Stap droid that my son and daughter and my wife gave me when I was just newly sober. And I don't know why, but I consider that to be my most prized my most prized collectible. The rest of this stuff, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love my collection, but set it all on fire. Okay, it's just stuff. And to me, this one is that's the one I'd grab if I had to leave really quickly. Oh, here we go. I'm going to take this thing down, and I'll see if I can figure out how to solo layout. Let's do this. All right, there we go. Let's get a close up of that bad boy.
So this is the Lily Letty removable rocket Boba Fett. Got graded an 85 plus from CAS. This was from a collector in Mexico that sent this in for grading, and I picked it up. I had a friend pick it up for me at Celebration Star Wars in California. I think it was last March or April. So he met my friend, and then he gave him the figure. My friend gave him the money, and then my friend mailed it to me. So definitely, and I think the price was actually very good because a couple of them have sold afterwards, and they went for a lot of money.
I know. Well, yes, I swear I was getting ready to say that the after you bought that, you were like, who am I to be buying this? And then I was like, I don't know, man. I think given what it is, that you're going to be doing pretty well from an investment perspective. I know that I try not to talk about the investment perspective of this stuff, but for something like that, you almost have to, because it is an investment, buying something that expensive. And I think that proved to be a very wise investment.
So at that same show, an AFA 85 sold and it was old case for $15,000. And I did not pay close to $15,000 for a higher graded one than that. So
that's pretty amazing.
I don't have money like that to throw around.
No, well, I don't have Chris W. money to throw around. Tony Rica says, do you believe that a CS 30-day turnaround is due to a slowdown in submissions, or due to the economy, and have they slowed down? And they have slowed down, and I will be heading up there next week as I live 20 minutes away. So one thing that I wonder is, how much of this is CAS not getting enough business? How much of it is just broader macroeconomic issues that all the grading companies are facing? Obviously, we talked about AFA halting loose submissions, but they're very happily taking, package submissions. So, what are your thoughts there on that topic?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's very helpful. I think that in general, here's my dream world, that CAS moves over to 30-day turnaround for standard 6x9s all the time. Now that would be a pretty incredible thing. I think they would really, if they're able to do something like that and have it not be a special, have it be all the time, 30-day turnaround for any standard mint on card 6x9. I can only imagine that their customer base and their market share would pretty dramatically increase. I don't know how easy it would be to do, but that would be, if they could actually do that, long term, sometime this year, for example, that would be pretty incredible.
I say I don't know because it was almost like a trick because most of us have been grading for years. We're used to sending in items 4 or 5 years ago. How long did it take? 2 months? Maybe 3 months?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden the boom comes and you're looking at 8 months, 10 months, 12 months, sometimes even longer. Now the times are getting shorter. Now they're doing 30-day. I don't want to get sucked into the thinking that I'm going to get my item back in 30 days. They stop this, and then all of a sudden it takes 6-8 months again.
Right.
So for me, I just don't want to be suckered into thinking that it's always going to be like this good.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And Keith did raise a good point. And, to me, this is one of the big advantages of working with Collector Archive, right? You can email them and say, hey, look, I accidentally sent in some Clone Wars figures that didn't match or didn't meet the criteria for this 30-day turnaround special. And what did they do? They sat there and broke them down into 2 different orders for them. That's the kind of stuff that I love just to see, because for me, when I got a grading label issue with them, or for example, this is a good example of something. So CAS used to ship all my mint on cards in those big CAS logoed boxes that were really nice, with foam and all that kind of stuff. It's really nice boxes for storage. The problem is that there's a lot of empty space in those boxes. So your return shipping costs would be ridiculous. And so I emailed them one time and I said, hey, look, is it possible to just put a note that for all of my orders, you just wrap them in bubble wrap? I don't need those Collector Archive Services boxes. Yeah, there you go. That's a good example of one, right? So that's how they used to ship all my orders. And the shipping costs were insanely expensive. And to be able to get that taken off for all my future orders, I mean, my return shipping costs with CAS, I mean, it's like a fourth of what it used to be. And it's just that kind of little stuff like that is huge to me. Versus, AFA, they charge you $15 a mint on card return shipping, thereabouts. It goes down with volume, but even still, they're charging you for materials and all this stuff. CAS, it's the actual postage stamp cost, right? That's for me. That's been my experience anyway. Like I just got an order. It was $27.95 for 7 mint on cards. I mean, that's awesome. That's a pretty good value in my opinion. You know what I mean?
I just did an unboxing last week. It was $39.99, I want to say, so $40. I had 10 baggies. I had 2 mocks. I had a couple of loose graded. So to get all that for $40 shipped.
Yeah. Now, what do you think it would be with AFA? I mean, it would be probably $90, if not more.
Oh, with AFA, it'd be a lot more. You have to pay for each box. You have to pay for the tape. You got to pay for everything.
Justin Maben says a VC16 Anakin Skywalker uncirculated 9.0 unpunched, $2,500. Is that a mad price? I can go ahead and tell you right now that person has been smoking the wacky tobacco, because that price is not even close to market value. And, Justin, I'm a little bit offended here because I do a weekly TVC market update video. And if you watch those videos, you would know that price is insane. Ungraded, you're probably talking, $300 to $400 max. And I know it's uncirculated 9.0, blah, 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 but give me a break. That's ridiculous.
So, Justin, I don't even collect modern, and when I saw that price, I knew it was crazy.
I'm just picking on you, Justin. I'm only kidding around, man. Let's see what Kevin L has to say. I think people are holding on as they know the prices paid would be low. They are predicting a short recession in the UK towards the end of the year. And that seems to be the case here, is that, and this dates back to last year, where all the big prognosticators, all the financial analysts and the financial markets were predicting a recession in the U.S. in 2023. And I was like, what are you talking about? We've already in a recession. And I think that I was wrong. It just seems like in general, with the exception of the housing market, there hasn't been much of a slowdown, obviously, with what labor has done here in the U.S. So
Only
crazy.
time will tell for this year.
Yeah, and I don't want to get into politics, Wizzy, so I'm going to leave your comment off. But I try to stay away from politics no matter what. But I do think that we're headed towards something. But we'll see. Is the rocket supposed to be removable on your Lily Letty FET? What about the PBP FETs, where the rockets are often removable? Is that the same thing? The answer is no on that. The PBP FETs, just like every other PBP figure, are known to have weak welds. Poor sonic welding, poor gluing, or whatever. So the fact that the rocket came out of the Spanish PBP FETs, that's just a factory defect. Now, Chris, I'll let you give a little bit of a history since it's your item on the removable rocket Lily Letty FET.
So my history is not really going to be correct history from what I know, but no. So from what I know, that some of them, or a handful, were made where the rocket was never, I guess, glued in.
And hey, Chris, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I have got to use the restroom, so I'm going to let you talk for a little bit. All right?
Okay. So from what I understand, the rocket was not glued in, I think, in the beginning when they first manufactured these. So you're able to tell on the rocket itself that there's like striations and there's marks on them. So if it was glued in and someone did pull it out, you would see markings on the actual rocket. So when you don't see anything like forcible on the rocket, then I think that's how they're able to tell that it is a removable rocket one, like a real one. Now, I could be completely wrong, but that was from basically what I was told. It was, you can kind of say it was like an error to begin with. I don't know if it was ever supposed to be made, like that, but that's how you're able to tell. So, and stuff like that, I wouldn't really buy one loose personally because I just don't know enough about it to really be able to know if I'm getting scammed or not. So something
There's
like
a lot
that.
of people doing that too. I mean, you see it all the time on Facebook with people who have submitted them and they've been rejected or obvious defects, things like that. Rob Chewbacca says, submitted 22 items to CAS, received on 127. So far, 4 of the 22 are graded. Be patient, Rob. I'm telling you, they're moving quick. They really are. It's weird because I had one order that was done in 2 days, and then I had another order where only 4 of the 6 have been done, and they've sat for a week. So, they have their own processes in place, and I think that from what I gather anyway, they see what is being requested to be graded. They check their other orders that are in process, and if there's multiples, then they do them all at the same time. So you might get certain. They hired a new operations manager last year, and he had some pretty major, in my opinion, pretty major hiccups early on. But I've noticed a pretty significant improvement in labeling and something I'm going to talk about in a video. I don't know what your thoughts here are, Chris, on any recent mint on card returns from CES, but the cases are really nice. I mean, really nice.
I haven't seen any because I haven't sent any in, so I haven't really been able to see any.
Well, I just did a video about comparing AFA versus UKG versus CAS loose graded.
Yeah, I saw that.
And we can talk more about that if that's something people want to talk about. But I got to tell you, man, I don't think there's any comparison between CAS's mint on card cases and UKG and AFA. I mean, I think that CAS's mint on card cases. I mean, AFA is probably. It's close, but I'm sorry, man. They're new cases. I don't know what they did or what materials changes they've made, but they are primo. They are very, very nice and very well put together, and a significant. It's a significant upgrade over UKG cases for mint on card. It's a pretty noticeable difference for AFA, and I'm sure I'll talk about that in a video at some point, but. You watched my video on loose graded ranking. I was ranking the loose graded figure cases for the big 3 companies. What are your opinions on loose graded figure cases between the big 3? Because you've got examples from all 3 now that are the most up to date. So what are your thoughts?
So I've been saying for a while now also that my favorite loose grading case out of the 3 is actually UKG also. So I agree with you. I feel like they're thicker. They feel heavier. Definitely more sturdier. If you look around, there is less breakage when it comes to UKG items. You don't see many items breaking with UKG, especially with the pegs because they are bigger, so there's probably more glue in them, which is always a problem with AFA. CAS lately, there's been like the brackets, the shoulder J hooks, they're called. Those have been breaking off more lately. I just feel like maybe because they've been rushing the items out more to get them out and not maybe letting them sit or settle with the glue. I have no idea.
It's
But
crazy. Yeah, that's never happened to me ever. And I see you and Charles unbox some stuff from CAS where that's happened a lot.
I
So I don't know what the deal is. It's never happened to me ever.
I think it's just like a more recent thing because they're just pushing out so many items. But I would say that the UKG loose graded are my favorite. The baggies by far is CAS. They make the best loose graded baggy
No,
case.
I see. I disagree.
You
No, come
know,
on.
you
No,
are
I'm going to show off one of my recent pickups. This is a
that is crazy.
SWB baggie for Han Solo UKG 85%. I'm going to put myself because
Crazy.
I'm going to put me on solo layout so I don't have to look at you. But look at this. I mean, I'm sorry. This is how you really show off a baggie. I mean, that is just amazing. It turns an average to above average baggie into a really nice display piece. Now, I know what you're going to say, Chris. I know you're going to say that that it takes up a lot more space, and that part I do agree with.
That looks like a brick, like you're building a house with bricks. That's what it looks like. It is so big and it is so. It does not need to be that oversized. There's too much extra space on the top, bottom, and sides. Waste. It's a waste.
Agree to disagree. Okay, it really elevates the item to the next level in terms of presentation, in my opinion.
If you have a couple of them, then I agree. But I have, I think, 80 or 90 graded baggies. I cannot fit those cases in my case.
No, that's true. You have a lot more baggies. Okay, so Ketbag, he says, my first Echo Base live in the UK was yesterday. And I have seen a lot of photos on Facebook from those that attended. It looked like an amazing time. And he says, I was aiming to pick up some vintage mocks, but I was too slow. Lesson learned. And this is true here. I gotta back up Ketbag on this. Is that when I saw at conventions? So I went to the lobby sale last year at ICCCCCC, and they had a Dengar there, and it ended up getting an 80 with CAS. And I picked that up for like $160, and that was a bargain. When you see them, you got to grab them.
Yep.
What are the other big trader events in the U.S. that you guys go to? I don't really attend conventions. That's just not my thing, but I'll let you speak to that.
I would say you got the ICCC show. You have Star Wars Celebration. And last year that was in, I think, Anaheim, California, if I'm correct. You have Kane County.
Kane County, I forgot about that one.
So Kane County is a big one. And then you have the Cincy show. And the Cincinnati show was good because that's where Kenner was. So that's where most of like the prototypes and all the stuff kind of have stayed with the people that worked at Kenner and stuff like that. So there just always seems to be a lot more product vintage-wise at that show. And I've never been to it, but just from what I've heard.
Hitchville, he asks, he apparently submitted a Luke X-Wing in the last month to CAS, and no one can find it. It is a $40 figure, but it was perfect. And what level of responsibility should we expect from them in this situation? Have you ever had an experience like that, Chris, with CAS where you've lost something in transit or at their facilities?
There's been a few times where I sent stuff in, like a Luke Jedi. They told me that the saber was missing. And I know the saber wasn't missing because I'm very OCD with my packing. I packed the saber and the blaster separately on the side. And they said that the saber wasn't there. I just resent in the saber. Something with Jabba was missing, like the hookah pipe. They said that they didn't have it. I resent it in. So thankfully it's only been cheaper items, like $20 to $40. That's all I've ever experienced. I haven't had to go down that route of it being hundreds. So
yeah, I mean, one of my very first submissions to them, I sent in like some GI Joe, like convention exclusive Fireflies, and I was new. This is like a long time ago. This is probably 4 or 5 years ago, at least. Right towards the beginning of CAS starting out, whenever that was. And they said that they'd never received the accessories that were included. And I'm like, really? Like I said, at the time I was like, oh, okay, I guess I lost them. I just didn't even think that they could have been potentially lost there. But I remember packing them, and they just somehow got misplaced. But that's the only time that's ever something bad has ever happened for me there. Tony, he says, do you think AFA not grading loose figures at the moment will hurt them down the road, as people will use CAS and stick with them? Thoughts, Chris? Thoughts?
It's actually a very good question, and yes, I do think that. I think AFA has their loyal customers, their old fan base that will always use them. I think for most of the newer collectors and people that at least give CAS a chance, they are the ones that use CAS more often. Now, with AFA being down, are they ever going to come back? Honestly, I don't know. I really don't know if it's ever going to come back ever. They're either working on a solution to make it better, or I think they're just doing this to be done with it for good.
That was my argument that I made when I did that announcement video about AFA halting loose submissions, is that I don't know if they don't even want to do it, is my guess. It's not profit. I don't think any of the companies really want to do it. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but it can't be that profitable given the intricacies involved with making these loose graded figure cases. They just can't charge enough to make it worth it. So I think if AFA does come back, it's going to be very, very expensive, like $100 plus per figure.
Yeah.
Or they're just not going to bring it back at all.
with a mock and a box vehicle, it's very standard. It never changes. Just the blister changes, but the mock, everything is a standard size fit. When it comes to loose figures, all the figures are different sizes: big, small, fat, skinny. The pegs are always different. The accessory holder is always different. The label is always different. The variant, the description of the label, there's a lot more work that goes on to it. With a mock, you have just a case and then like the sleeves that go on the side to hold it in, and that's really it. With the loose graded, there's a lot more pieces that go into the loose grading to do it.
Yeah, and Wizzy makes a good comment here. He says, make videos of you packing it when you submit something. I do that now. I didn't used to do this, but I make videos of me packing it, and I also take detailed photos of the items inside a star case, the star cases inside the box, and then the box after it's sealed. And then I also take a photo of the email confirmation once CAS has signed for it. I save all of those. I've got separate folders set up for each month of submissions now. And it sounds crazy, but I don't do it for every submission. Like if I'm sending in, like some fairly inexpensive items, I'm not going to do it. But, stuff that is of significant value to me, either money wise or, something that I want to get back for sure, that I'm going to take some pretty detailed photos or video of it. So it's a good idea to do that, I think.
It's definitely a great idea, and you can't go wrong. But for someone like me who's sending stuff in all the time, and as many items, it's just too much work. I don't have time for that. I just don't.
No, I know. Yeah, for you, it doesn't make sense because you're handling it. And this is a good time to mention that, is that if you guys have items and you don't want to, and you're in the U.S. and you don't want to deal, or you might do international. I don't know. So I'll let you speak to that. But you might want to talk about your grading service.
So I do take in items for people that either don't know how to grade items, if they're too lazy to do it, if they don't have enough time to do it. I will send in your stuff. You send it to me. I will do all the work. I do charge a little fee per item to do it. So I handle that for a lot of people. But then there's also a lot of people that don't really know how grading works. So when they get a figure in, they think it's automatically mint. And technically, with grading wise, it's not mint. So instead of spending $70 with shipping and insurance back and forth and finding out you got a 70 and not understanding why you got the 70, people send me their stuff now, and I kind of, again, charge a fee, but I will go over the item. It's kind of like a pre-screener. I think comic books do this, and baseball cards do this also. And I kind of just go over it, and I kind of give it like an estimated grade of what I think it will get. So
yeah, that's huge. That's a big help, I think, for newer grading.
Yeah, it's saved a lot of people money from sending in these items that are going to get a very low score.
Tony did ask this: do I have the new Read 5 book? I got to tell you, I do not have it, but I do need to get that. It's pretty incredible, the amount of detail. I have a local buddy that has one, and I got to read through it, and it's easily the best vintage Star Wars guide that's been made to date, in my opinion. I mean, it blows Kellerman out of the water personally. And Brett on Fed, he says that if you email them, they can add your name to the list of those interested, and they've already got 800 for a second, 800 people that want it for a second run, which it's very well deserving. And those guys just put together, I mean, the amount of work that must have gone into that book must have been mind blowing.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's pretty incredible work. So, well, we've been going for about 70 minutes now, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. But I want to say thank you to everyone who was kind enough to join us for this Patreon exclusive live stream. Chris, I want to thank you as well for joining.
No problem. I'm actually doing a live stream tonight on my channel.
All right. Well, let's give it a little plug then. What are you guys going to be talking about?
Yeah. So tonight we're doing a live stream. It's at 9:00 Eastern on the 5 Idiots Talking Toys page, and we're going to be talking about the Morphe auction. Just that. A lot of people that we went with, guests that were there, we're going to have them on to show, just to basically talk about their experience at the, being at an auction and stuff like that, and how they felt about prices and whatever. So,
and you guys should also check out the shorts over at 5 Idiots Talking Toys. They got some great shorts from their footage from when they were at the auction. It's really incredible stuff. So,
thank you.
Thank you guys all again for joining. I'm sorry if I didn't put all your comments up. It's only because I can't keep up with all the comments, but I just want to say thanks to everyone for supporting the channel and for joining. And if you guys liked it, let me know, and we'll try to make it a more regular thing. But we'll be back soon, and thanks again for watching, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.